Welcome back to HPP, the podcast that covers college basketball and the NBA draft inside and out. I am Rich Harris, and thanks for joining us again. Today, I'm joined by Ayad Booney and Jake Kupstick, and we're doing things a little out of order today. Doc Llewellyn will be joining us later for the NBA chat. Gentlemen, how's life? Are you enjoying March Madness so far?
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. Great games, great tournament games, a lot of parity. The only thing that's kind of making me a little sick, like I mentioned earlier, is Lenardi's bracket and having UNC still as the first four out. And as I said, I think if UNC was 3-27, he'd have them as the next four out. I don't know how many games they have to lose in order for them to be out of the tournament. They get more chances than I've ever seen anybody in the world.
We will get to that. I got to ask you a question, though, Booney. Where are you flying off to?
I'm going to Florida.
Florida?
Yeah.
What's in Florida?
A little business, a little fun. So visit,
what part of
work to do out there.
What part of Florida?
I am going to West Palm Beach.
Okay. All righty. All right. So is that near Tampa Bay?
I don't know. Never been there.
Ah.
Good question. It's about an hour and 20 from Miami.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it shouldn't be too far from Tampa then. I've heard Tampa's a really fun town, but I've never been there.
Is that right?
Yeah. And Jake, you're headed off to the Ivy League tournament.
That's correct. Yeah.
Which I believe we're not going to be picking that one. It's only the Ivy League only includes 4 teams. But I believe Yale's the favorite.
So yeah, they're the 1 seed. They split the regular season championship with Princeton, who came back from a 17-point deficit to defeat my Penn Quakers, which I was upset about. And unfortunately for Penn, it's the same matchup that they're going to see. They're going to see Princeton again at their home gym a week from the last time that they played.
So these are all played at home gyms as well.
So it used to be at the Palestras. First of all, they didn't used to do a tournament. They used to have it at the Palestra. They complained about home court advantage, so they rotated.
For Penn.
So now they had it at Yale last year. Yeah, it was at Penn a lot. It was at Yale last year. They're going to rotate it between all the 8 teams. It's at Princeton this year. And lucky for Penn, the first 2 years they've done that, they've played the home team on their home floor. They lost to Yale in the first round last year, and now they will play Princeton at their home gym in the first round this year.
I see. All right. So I got to ask you guys a question as long as we're on the Ivy League. What do you think about Tommy Amaker being the next Notre Dame coach? I heard Tommy was really, really miffed that he didn't get the Duke job, and this would be a way for him to get into the ACC and try to give it back to Duke.
I think it's a great hire. I like Tommy Amaker. I think he's done a hell of a job in the Ivy League, and I think he's going to be able to recruit at Notre Dame. I think
I'm just speculating here. I'm just speculating,
and I think it's going to happen. I think Notre Dame's going to hire him. He wants to. That makes sense for Tommy Amaker, not only to take that job, but for Notre Dame to offer it to him, and I think it's going to happen. Yeah. So correct, you're speculating, but
right. I think one of the things is Tommy's already used to recruiting at a place that has high academic standards. I mean, I'm not saying that other schools in the ACC don't. Some do, some don't. But that's one of the difficulties Notre Dame has. But Amaker, surprisingly, the COVID year, I think he had 3 top 100 prospects, or maybe the year before that. Well, Seth Towns was hurt, but still, he had 3 top 100 prospects on his roster, but only I think 2 were playing. So yeah, and maybe he can bring around. Harvard's got kind of a Mr. Do Everything there, small forward. I can't think of his name.
Chris Ledlam.
Yeah, right.
He put his name in the portal today along with a few other guys there because they're
okay. But he's still going to play in the tournament, right? Or is Harvard out?
They're out. It's Yale, Penn, Princeton, and then Cornell got the final spot.
Right. So
they're done.
Oh, sorry.
Nate, not to cut you off. Name I want to throw out there, another guy that's that's done a very, very good job in a school that has to recruit with high academic standards and has been dominant. Now he hasn't won a game in the tournament, but he's made it there a lot. I think an interesting name here is Matt Langle out of Colgate to potentially take that job as well and make a move into a major conference because he's dominated at Colgate. They play Lafayette tomorrow to get in the tournament again. But I think that could be another name.
How long has he been at Colgate?
I believe he's been there, I want to say a decade at least.
So but that means he coached our own Hugh Baxter. We should ask Hugh if he's heard anything in the. Though it's hard to get Hugh's attention these days. He's working for that organization called the Milwaukee Bucks. I've never heard of them myself, but anyway.
I think that could be a good job. I think that could be another name. He's been dominant in the Patriot League there, and if they beat Lafayette tomorrow, that'll be the last 3 years, if not 4, that Colgate's represented the Patriot League in the tournament if they win.
Right. Okay, so let's talk about who's in so far. And if I'm doing my math properly, we have 6 teams in so far. Kennesaw State won the Atlantic Sun. UNC-Asheville won the Big South. Fairleigh Dickinson won the Northeast. Southeast Missouri won the Ohio Valley. Furman won the SoCon, and the Sun Belt was won by Louisiana. Any thoughts on these teams? I know we're going to be talking about Drew Pember down in our stock report. But besides Drew, any other thoughts about these teams?
May I say one thing?
You can say more than one thing.
Okay, and will. I'm going to go to the Northeast. Fairleigh Dickinson is in. They got their bid by winning their semifinal game. They play Marymount tonight, who is the number 1 seed. I think one of the worst rules the NCAA has is the 4-year waiting period for new Division I teams.
Yes.
Their reasoning's a joke. The reasoning is to bring stability, to handle the new rule changes so teams won't be going up and down. It is a shame that they have put in so much damn work going for the championship tonight and cannot go to the tournament because of an unjust rule.
It happened last year to someone. Who did it happen?
It happened to Bellarmine last year.
Right.
And not only did Bellarmine win, and they played at home against Jacksonville in the championship game, but that bid from the A-Sun didn't even go to Jacksonville. It went to Jacksonville State, who finished the season as the number 1 seed, but got knocked out by Jacksonville.
Yeah.
So it's a dumb rule.
That's a shame. Fairleigh Dickinson is not far from me, a stone's throw for me. So happy for those guys, but I agree 100%. Really bad rule. Furman knocked out our boy Jake Stevens in the championship game, beating Chattanooga. Jake came back for the tournament and played really, really well. Also, Dwayne Cohill, Youngstown State, was trying to get into the tournament for the first time ever. They were the top seed in the tournament, but they got knocked off by Northern Kentucky last night, which was a shame.
Something else interesting about those 6 teams already in. Only 2 of them were number 1 seeds.
That is interesting.
UNC-Asheville and
Furman was.
3 of them.
Furman,
Kennesaw, Asheville, and Furman.
Okay. All righty. All right. So let's get to the topic Booney is burning to talk about, and that's the bubble. And according to Lenardi, see, one of the problems we have, I wouldn't mind looking at DeCourcy's bracket as well, but it's not easy to get to online. So I'm not sure why they do it that way, but so we're going to work off Lenardi's. So he has last 4 buys, which means they're fairly safe, would be Boise State, NC State, Pittsburgh, and Penn State. My one thought on this is, seriously, Pittsburgh, second place team in the ACC, is basically on the bubble. So then he has last 4 in Mississippi State, But he doesn't have Vandy on this list. Vandy has been hotter than Mississippi State. Vandy just beat Mississippi State. Vandy has a better record in conference over Mississippi State. Vandy's nowhere on this list. Mississippi State is. Utah State, Rutgers, who's just ever since they lost Maywat Mags, has just been in a tailspin. And Nevada is barely hanging on after losing their last two. Then first four out, Oklahoma State, Wisconsin, Arizona State, and North Carolina. Hold on, Booney. You'll get your I can't believe they're first four out either. They should be like first, I don't know. They should be like next four out. And then we have the next four out is Michigan, Charleston, Clemson, and Oregon. And I think Clemson's better than North Carolina. And I'm like 100% sure Michigan's better than North Carolina. I know Jake has different thoughts about Michigan, and we can get into that. But does anyone here understand why North Carolina is still there?
No.
I'm almost at a loss for words for it. They're 1-9 in quad one. There's a preseason favorite, the preseason number one team in the country.
Yeah.
Is 1-9.
Yeah.
They get swept by Duke.
You're not even impressed when you watch them with the eye test.
No. Of course not. Caleb Love, the two games against Duke, was not very good. His percentages, I mean, he had a game early in the year. I think when they played Bama and the game went to 4 overtimes, I think he took like 40 shots in that game or something like that. Like he has not really shot the ball too well this year.
In his 4 seasons, he's never shot better than 40% from the field. He's been under 40% from the field 3 years. He's a junior, right? He's a junior.
Believe so, yes.
Yeah, so all 3 of his years, I'm like 90% sure he shot less than 40%. So
yes.
The guy's never been efficient.
Yeah.
So, how did Clemson, Booney, do you know how Clemson and North Carolina have fared against each other?
Yeah, they played once at Carolina, and Carolina beat them pretty good.
Okay.
Beat them by
All
20.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. So is there anybody else here missing that we're like kind of scratching our heads? I mean, Vanderbilt, of course, quickly came to mind, but as we said last week, I'd much rather, like, if Oral Roberts would lose tonight. By the way, I think there's 4 or 5 bids on the line tonight. But like, if Oral Roberts would lose tonight, I would much rather see them get an at-large bid than somebody like North Carolina.
I think there's about 16 teams, 15 teams playing for about 5 bids.
Yeah.
On everyone, not in every. You can. I'm not in the opinion of so, but you can make an argument for that. Another team that's very, very good, that DeCourcy, when we had him on, absolutely dismissed, that's made a hell of a run, is UAB.
Right. Yeah. And UAB has one of the better backcourts in the nation.
Absolutely.
And we still, yeah.
Here's my concern, Rich, Jake. Here's my concern. My concern, and what has the blood boiling and the anxiety going up, is not who is chosen. It is that the committee is going to use or base their decisions on net rankings, on quad one wins, rather than who they feel the best 68 teams are, which in my opinion should get rid of the committee and just have it computer based. Here's the issue I have with net rankings in quad one. The main thing that attributes to net rankings is the quality of so-called wins, strength of schedule. But it is incredibly favoring the teams in the Power Five. And what I mean by that is you take a team as a West Virginia, an Oklahoma State, who has, let's say, a record against quad ones of 6-12. Those quad ones, those 6 quad ones boost as far as what the committee looks at, is a very, very positive number. On top of that, the 6 wins they have, according to the algorithm of the net rankings, boost their net rankings. So they're almost getting 2 wins for 1.
Right.
And I hope it doesn't come down to that. Maybe I'm overreacting. Maybe the committee is smarter.
No, you're not. That's why I think we need some standards, because first of all, we don't see Oral Roberts or Charleston enough, and they don't play teams that we know are at least decent for us to be overly impressed by them. So no matter how well they do in their conference, we're never going to be overly impressed by that. And the computers aren't going to be either. And what Jake brought up when we were off the air is Michigan, for example, is hanging on because they're losing close games. And the way the computers are programmed, the ones that take in margin of victory or margin of loss, Michigan could actually boost its, like Sagarin, who looks at margin of victory much more than the net rankings. Michigan could actually boost its Sagarin better than, so Oral Roberts could beat somebody by 10, and Michigan could lose to somebody by 1, and Michigan could actually get, if it's like Purdue, Michigan could actually have their Sagarin increase more. So I don't think you can leave it to the computers. I think, we have to come up with some system where a lot of these mid-majors, we used to have that bracket busting tournament and around the same time where they had the SEC challenge. Now they remember that bracket busting tournament they used to have, and they used to have like eight or 10 mid-majors play each other. So like a Bradley would play like a Youngstown State or something like that. And so yeah, if you leave it up to the computers, Oral Roberts and Charleston will never be in it. So I think you just got to say, hey, we're trying to pick the national championship here, and the regular season does mean something. And we definitely know that West Virginia is not the best team in the country. We definitely know that Wisconsin is not the best team in the country. We definitely know that North Carolina is not the best team in the country. We could say that already. Okay. Oral Roberts, who's only lost 4 games on the year, we probably could say that too, because, they don't have any big wins, but I just used the word probably because their regular seasons have been stellar. And so if they're, let them in and see what they do. I don't see what value it adds to bring in these 17 and 14 teams, 17 wins, 14 losses. Who cares about them? That's what the NIT's for.
Agree.
Yeah. No, agreed 100%. I'm just looking at Warren Nolan, that the net nitty-gritty that DeCourcy recommended to us. And I was watching Inside College Basketball last night after I believe it was the Charleston game. And they're talking about how Michigan, they're 17 and 14, 3-11 quad 1. And it seems like they're hanging their hat on the 21st best strength of schedule. So they're playing hard teams. And even though they're not winning, they're playing the best they're playing very good teams every night.
Right. And they've lost, their last 2 were losses, but they were both in overtime.
Yeah, exactly. It's almost like they'll get rewarded for that. And they blew both those games. They were up double digits at Assembly Hall in Indiana. They blow it and they go to overtime. And they also have a horrible loss to Central Michigan on their resume as well. And it just seems like they're getting they're almost getting rewarded for losing here.
Yeah.
But when you bring up the fact that Booney says let's put the best teams in, I could see them going for a Michigan, of course, over a North Carolina, and I think that's how they might end up getting in.
So my question is, the challenge I'm doing when I'm doing the bracket is not whether Michigan deserves to get in or not. My question is, who do you put in over Michigan? So for me right now, I have Michigan as my first 4 out. My last 4 in are Penn State, Utah State, Clemson, West Virginia. And the next couple after that is Michigan and Mississippi State. So, and I think the first round of the Big Ten tournament is going to be an elimination game between Rutgers and Michigan, an 8-9 matchup. The question is not who do you put in instead, I guess, more of it rather than Michigan has had. And I agree with what you're saying, but who goes in instead?
Yeah, I know that's why I'm agreeing with you saying that. And that's why I think, although I might disagree with it, I think Michigan will ultimately get in because of that logic that you're using. Like, I can look at the numbers and say, well, I don't think I deserve it, but I do agree with you in the sense that I think they'll get in because of that, because they look like a potential tournament team here that will
this
play
tournament
close
would
games
almost
on the
be
road.
easier to pick if there was 64 teams, not 68.
Exactly. Yeah. What do you guys think about? I've seen people throw this out there, and they've said that all the teams that get automatic bids, they just get in automatically, and then pretty much all the 11 seeds are playing games. And
I wouldn't mind that, but usually, some of those conferences are just really, really weak.
Yeah, that's the one downside to it, and they get a standalone game.
I just think, teams like Kent State or Toledo or, even Utah State. I mean, I think they deserve a longer look. Here's what I will say in defense of Michigan. I watch Michigan play, and I have seen moments of brilliance from that team. I mean, they have, one of the best centers in the country in Dickinson. They have one of the best freshmen in the country in Howard. And they have, Kobe Buffkin, who we talked about on Stock Rising last week. You look at West Virginia and you're like, how does, this team is just like, blah, there's just, they're just, yeah. And you can almost say the same thing about Mississippi State. But all right. So, last week we had this comparison. You weren't here, Jake, but Booney and I had this comparison of, we had like either or. And if it came down to these two teams, they were all bubble teams, basically. And some interesting things happened. For example, West Virginia is now considered what? They're not even on the bubble anymore, right? Or are they? No, they're not even.
West Virginia, DeCourcy has it there, which I thought was a joke, as there is a 9 seed, I believe.
Right.
But DeCourcy, what's his name? The other one, Lenardi.
Right. So now West Virginia is a lock because they beat K-State. Now, a lot of teams, we saw this over and over. A lot of teams kind of knew what they were doing, like Kansas against Texas. Kansas didn't really have a ton to benefit from beating Texas. Texas had a lot more to gain from that game. And the same way with West Virginia and K-State. So West Virginia beats K-State in a game K-State's probably, kind of would just
whatever.
Would just assume not play. They win.
And West Virginia is fighting for their lives.
Right. And West Virginia is now a lock for the tournament. Now, of course, Vanderbilt did what they had to do by beating Mississippi State, and that didn't help them at all. But Auburn did the same thing against Tennessee. Again, Tennessee didn't have a lot to gain. Auburn had everything to gain. Auburn wins at home. So, yeah. Now, North Carolina was in that circumstance, and Duke was also in a similar circumstance, but Duke didn't have a ton to gain. North Carolina did. North Carolina came up short, and they're still the same place they were last week.
UNC, if they get any of those wins, they might have them as a 1 seed. I mean, it is insane. It is insane. And you know what's crazy? Lenardi said it on TV. If they were not UNC, we would not be talking about it. And he still does it. It is whatever. He
basically said they don't really deserve to be there, but I'm going to put them there because they're North Carolina.
Yeah.
All right. Speaking of deserving or not deserving to be there, what do you think of Brandon Miller not being among the Wooden finalists? For example, some sports books basically had him as the 5th highest favorite to win the award for the season last week, and he wasn't in the 15 finalists. So yes,
Good.
Booney is clapping. Jake, any thoughts here?
So strictly from a basketball standpoint, it's outrageous. But with everything else that's going on, I understand. I'm in the boat that I think he should have at least faced like some sort of suspension,
right,
some sort of discipline,
right. It's almost like Alabama didn't do what they should have done, so now everybody else is going to do what they think is the right thing to do.
Right.
What's
And
crazy,
I think that's what it comes down to. But strictly from a basketball standpoint, I think it's crazy. He's been one of the best players, the best freshman in the country, on one of the best teams.
No, right. 100% agree.
Right, but I mean, as we detailed in an hour and a half long special episode last week, there were so many things that are unanswered, so many things where, it would seem that if once we know all the facts, that he could be anywhere from, he could be partially responsible for Jamea Harris's murder, all the way to he may have, depending on the law in Alabama, maybe he didn't break the law, but he still could have made like the worst decision you could possibly make that resulted in someone dying. So, and there's also the possibility that he was kind of totally oblivious to everything. And maybe the only thing you could really say about him is, okay, maybe he should have reported the fact that Darius Miles had a gun on campus a long time ago, or maybe he shouldn't have been hanging out with Darius Miles. But no matter how you look at it, it can range from he has bad judgment at best to worst. He's responsible, at least partially responsible for a murder. Yeah.
He should have been suspended for the pat down incident alone.
Yeah.
So yeah, obviously it's not a good look for everybody involved, and it's like it won't deter me from like watching games and watching Alabama play, so to speak. But he should have faced some sort of discipline, and you're exactly right, Rich. Like awards, the media, they're going to discredit some of that for sure. Overall, like my one theme is like it's wild that he's not on the Wooden Award finalist list, because he's been for a long time. They still are one of the best teams. For a while there, they were the best team and the number one team, and he was the best player that they had. So strictly from a basketball standpoint, yes, he should have been on the list, but the fact that he's not, like, I'm not.
It's going to be tough for Bama. It's going to be tough for Bama to come back, and I think I mentioned it last week. When I was at Fresno State in 96, 97, and we had a point shaving scandal breakout. We had a hell of a team. We had a point shaving scandal breakout the day we were playing in what was then the WAC tournament. And it had a huge effect on the team and what was around, mostly the coaches and what they had to deal with, etc. We went into the WAC tournament first round, lost by 25 to a TCU team, and then on the bubble. And this was like a 25-win team, 26-win team, and we didn't get in. And we went to the NIT, and we got blown out first round to Nevada at home. So this is going to have more of an effect on Bama than you think.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to win. I think they have no chance to win the tournament with this black cloud that's over them.
I think they're going to get beat early.
Yep.
You see Jaden Bradley. I mean, you don't have to. You just go back to the date, January 15th, and look at Jaden Bradley's stats. Yeah. The other thing is, I mean, they basically are doing everything they can. Alabama, that is, the school, is doing everything they can to, like, it's like East Germany. It's like East Germany in the 70s or something, with their secret police. They're doing everything they can to hide the players, to keep the players. I mean, after the Texas A&M game, they went to the extreme of taking the players off the court, instead of doing the handshake. And that had been approved before the game. So Alabama is managing a mess here. And I can, if Miller, if Miller was completely innocent and Bradley was completely innocent, I would think that it wouldn't be affecting the team, but yeah, I think it is affecting the team, and I think it will continue to do so.
Yeah, no, I think 100%. Like, I agree with Booney. I think they lose early. I don't think they can pass. I definitely don't think they make the Final Four. Sweet 16, maybe Elite 8, but that's it. I don't see them making the final.
Yeah, I mean, before this, before last Tuesday, before a week from, today, I was thinking they were the best team in the country. And then you said on the episode, hey, this Brandon Miller thing. And I was like, what?
Yeah. and that turned into a whole big thing. Huh?
Yeah. And then
off a bunch of alarms for you.
Yeah. All right. So we'll move on to our draft stock report. And the first guy on our list is Arkansas's Nick Smith. Now, Nick has missed a majority of the year due to injuries, but he really seems to be starting to heat up. And in the last 4 games against Georgia, Bama, Tennessee, Kentucky, so those last 3 really good defensive teams, he scored. Well, I don't know if Kentucky's a really good defensive team, but Tennessee and Bama are. Kentucky's not bad, but he's put up 26, 24, 12, and 25. Hasn't necessarily been overly efficient in those games, but he has, one of the things that's really lacking on Arkansas is outside shooting. So over that span, let me do some quick math here, folks. He's been 11 of a pop-up ad comes up right over it. Nice. All right. He's been 11 of 7 out of 25 from 3-point range, so that's 44%. So Booney, you were the one suggested that we put Nick Smith on here, and I agree. He's definitely starting to round into form. What do you make of his game?
I think he's starting to be everything we thought he was going to be after that long layoff. What's really impressive to me, and when watching him, is his mid-range game. His first step is explosive, and his explosiveness in the mid-range and rising over and knocking down those shots is quite impressive. I think he's been better than expected. I think Arkansas is going to make a run in the tournament as well. His shooting needs to improve, but you said it, Rich. I mean, he is shooting 44% from 3. He had a game of 5 of 8, 2 of 3. I think he's going to be a top 5 pick. I think he's not going to be. He hasn't lost anything that we can see visibly from that injury or that layoff.
Right. Yeah, and I agree. He really does play with a lot of bounce. Very quick twitch guy, explosive guy. When he does take his jumpers, right now he's more of a mid-range guy. But he does, like you said, I'm just repeating you, but he does rise up really nicely. I think his shot mechanics do need some work, and right now he needs to get to the rim more. He takes too many floaters, and some of them are from the, kind of like, the chances of it going in are like maybe 10-20%. So I think, the NBA, a lot of guys, you'll hear us say this, from here till June, you'll hear us say, needs to get to the rim more. And that's one of the things in the NBA that happens. You don't have the paint so clogged. You don't have somebody always waiting there for you to block your shot. But yeah, right now, his numbers are not eye-popping, but, if you consider who he's done these numbers against in these last 4 games, and if he was doing that all season, we'd be like, whoa, so yeah. I think Nick's coming along. Right now, we have him as a top 10 pick. We started him the year off at number 3. And he's still in our top 10. We'll be shuffling those guys around, all the way up to June, probably, as we take deeper and deeper looks at them. but I'm glad we're going to get a chance to see him in the tournament, and he's certainly a fun player to watch. All right, speaking of a fun player to watch, we have another guy, a former top 40 recruit, 4-star guy, Boogie Ellis, who started his career at Memphis and is now at USC, and Boogie has been on a tear. So just let me bring up his numbers here. Last 6 games he scored, and I'm going in reverse order. 28 against Arizona State, 35 against Arizona, 16 against Utah, 21 against Colorado, 33 against Stanford, and 22 against Cal. In those games, he's also been, producing assists. He's a combo guard. He's not a pure point guard. He's definitely probably more of a shooting guard, but he's usually in most games, he's at least getting 3 assists on average. On the season, he's actually producing really impressive numbers on the season. He's top 10 in the Pac-12 right now for points per game, steals per game, field goal percentage, free throw percentage, 3-point percentage, and he's also top 10 in the 3 major metrics: per, win shares, and plus minus. Just give you a sense, and I'll let you talk in a second. I just want to run over some of those numbers specifically because we haven't talked about Boogie all year. He's putting up 18.1 points per game. He's averaging 3 assists a game, 3.7 rebounds a game, 1.4 steals per game. And his shooting splits are very nice. 44% from the field, 39 from deep, and 80 from the line. So, Booney, I know you like Boogie Ellis. What do you think here? As far as the draft,
no,
huh?
I don't like
Oh, you
Boogie
don't?
Ellis.
Oh,
I love him.
Oh, okay.
Absolutely love him. He is a prototypical NBA combo guard. If you watch him play, his range is about 6-7 feet past the 3-point line, and he is shooting difficult threes too. Off the dribble, hang dribble threes, fall away, turn left shoulder, turn right shoulder, and he's knocking them down. Every time he shoots, you think he's going to knock it down. Seems to be a complete team player. Love the way he plays. I like him getting drafted in the second round.
Yeah. He's definitely, when we release our next draft board, is going to break into our top 100. He's been in our top 200 all year, but I just really haven't paid a lot of, it's just that West Coast thing. But yeah, after watching him more recently, I'm like really impressed. He'll definitely break into our top 100, and I don't think he may not be done rising. So yeah, second round pick, I think, is definitely within his grasp. And it should be what you said statistically. He's a high volume, off the dribble shooter. So he's making 39% of those threes, mainly off the bounce. And he's also has nice size, at 6'3", 180. He's probably a little bigger than that. I think he's a little bigger than 180 now. Great handle, very smooth. There's a lot to like about Boogie, and I'm kind of surprised or disappointed in myself for not talking about him sooner. The one thing, again, like I said, you're going to hear this a lot. At the rim, he's not outstanding. He's not outstanding at the rim. He's not outstanding with runners. He also tends to drive, or he's more effective driving left. So there's a couple things I think he can work on, but I really do like his shot. I really do like his handle. All right, so here's a friend of the show, Drew Pember, who we had is our next guy on Stock Rising, and Drew spent a lot of time with us. I guess that was about a month ago or so. Or is that around Christmas time? That might have been around Christmas time. But Drew has he won. Not only did he win in the Big South, not only did he win Player of the Year, he won Defensive Player of the Year. And he just got his UNC-Asheville into the tournament. So over his, you have to go back pretty far for Drew to find a bad game for Drew. over the last, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 7 games, 29 and 8, 31 and 10, 29 and 16, 19 and 3. That was an off game there for rebounds. And then 23 and 10, 22 and 10, 19 and 9. So Drew has been on a roll. He top 20 in the nation, not in conference, in the nation for points per game, rebounds per game, blocks per game, free throws made. He leads the nation in that category. Also top 20 in the nation for per and win shares. What do you think, Booney? What do you think of Drew?
Drew Pember, former Tennessee transfer.
Yes.
You're right. 6'10" senior, player of the year and defensive player of the year in the Big South, averaging 21 a game, 9 rebounds a game, 2 blocks a game, athletic, dominant, can score on all 3 levels. He's 6'10". Here's 2 stats that have me worried, though, and in watching him play. For the Big South, and someone as big as he is only shooting 46% from the floor. And he is turning the ball over almost 3.5 times per game.
This is true.
Those are huge concerns.
And the reason why that happens is because A, he's not a post player, and B, he puts the ball on the floor a lot. He's basically their center, but he really translates to more of a power forward if they really had a true center. I suppose
3.5 times a game is a lot for a point guard.
Right. No, I agree. Yeah. But he does put the ball on the floor on a lot. His offensive game is not low post oriented at all. He's a perimeter player. But yeah, you that's a valid point. Yeah. He can't score inside, by the way. He's one of the nation's leader in dunks. He has 42 dunks on the season. So I don't exactly know where he ranks, but I know he's in the top 100 in the country in that statistic. He can go right and left, but he's mostly a straight line driver. But you're right. His handle needs, if he's going to drive that much, which he probably wouldn't in the NBA, he's going to have to tighten that handle. He's also, even though he's not the most explosive player, and of course you would say, well, at 6'10", you're not going to expect him to be. Well, that's true. But I mean, even as far as bigs go, there were slower guys and there were quicker guys. But I would say as far as a big guy goes, he's probably above average in speed. Quickness, a lot of times you kind of see him get caught flat-footed when he's on the perimeter defending, and that's what I'm most concerned about. Because he's a great pick and pop guy. He's a good 3-point shooter in general. I believe he's hitting 37% of his threes on 4.4 a game. He's also shooting 83% from the foul line, and he has a very, very nice stroke. What do you think about his draft prospects?
I see him get drafted. I mean, I like somebody taking a shot at him in the second round with his athleticism and the NBA being predominantly pick and pop. You figure that he would fit right in and be somebody that is perfect for the NBA. And I wouldn't doubt that the defense of pressure he faces in college is probably greater than what the defensive pressure he's going to face in the NBA, as far as what we have seen as of late. I mean, don't get me started. The NBA is a whole different deal, but I'll keep this mostly positive in that sense. But anyway, that's where I'm at with Pember. I think I like somebody taking him second round.
Yeah, and he does have, if he chose to go like the Baylor Shireman route, he has that option as well. He's got one more year of.
He has one more year, huh?
Yeah, one more year. He's 22-year-old senior. So,
wow.
All right. So the next guy we're going to talk about is Damion Baugh of TCU, who is also a senior. And he kind of held TCU together when Mike Miles is out, and now Miles is back and Baugh is still playing at a high level. For example, over the last 5 games in the Big 12, 16 points and 11 assists against OK State. Then he had 11 points, 6 rebounds, 4 assists against Kansas. Had a terrible game against Texas Tech in terms of scoring. Only had 5, but then he still put up 9 assists. Then against Texas last week, 24 points, 5 rebounds, 9 assists, and then had another kind of he had a real, well, not a horrible game, but a decent game, 13 points, 8 rebounds, 3 assists. The thing I love, and one of the reasons why I'm so high on TCU, is when you pair Baugh and Miles together, you probably have the fastest backcourt in the country. And I just love all the things where Miles is a scorer. Baugh has developed, never was. He was more of a combo guard, but he has blossomed into a very, very good playmaker, along with being an excellent defender. So, Jake, what do you think about Baugh?
So, yeah, I really like his game. And I like what you said about him and Mike Miles being one of the fastest backcourts in America. And you have to be when you're going to be the deadliest transition attack in America. And you're absolutely right. He held his team together when Mike Miles was out, whether he was, the injury that he had when he got hurt at Mississippi State, really held this team together. I wish he was a better shooter.
Yes. Because
this TCU team in general is one of the worst in America. They don't even shoot 30% as a team.
Is that right? Huh? Wow.
You look at I believe they're on KenPom. I think I saw they're 300 and I think it's 57th. It's very bad. They're one of the worst in America. It's a bottom 10.
Did not know that.
They're awful. That's the one knock on this team. They are awful at shooting threes. Right. But yeah, he's been able to rack up assists, get to the basket, and he's a terrific defender, which you have to be if you're going to play for Jamie Dixon. So he does have a 5th year to come back.
Yep.
Which I think I would like for him to do, regardless of how TCU does in the tournament, because I believe outside of Chuck O'Bannon, this entire team really has the opportunity to come back and play another year together.
Right.
So I would like to see him come back. Definitely needs to improve as a shooter. You look at his 4 years he's been in college, the 2 years at Memphis, now it's 2 years at TCU, has never even shot 30% from 3.
That is correct.
And that's almost like a death knell in the NBA. No matter how good you are, unless you're spectacular at all the other things. And even still, if you can't shoot, it's definitely a problem. So he's got to get the 3-point shooting up for sure. But he's got a lot of other things you like. His speed, his ability to get downhill, get to the basket, has to shoot a better percentage from the free throw line as well to indicate that maybe there is some untapped shooting potential there. But been a very good ball handler and a playmaker. Really good defender. Like I said, you're going to play for TCU. You got to be able to do that. But it's the shooting here that I'm really hung up on. Because if you're not even going to shoot 30% in college, I don't imagine that's going to translate very well to the pros.
Probably not. Booney, what are your thoughts?
I think another key indicator when you look at a player like Damion Baugh is when you look at his numbers as far as shooting and points, etc. It doesn't blow you away. But you can really tell a player's importance to a team and value to a team in minutes played. Look at his last several games: 37, 38, 36, 35, 35, 39, 36, 37, 37, 36, 45. So Jamie Dixon, who's been around for quite some time, has the experience, shows you how much he values Baugh being on the floor.
Right. Agreed. I will say, if you look at Baugh's shot, it doesn't look bad.
It doesn't. It's a pretty looking shot.
And if you look career-wise, he's been slowly making progress from both the free throw line and the three-point line. So this season, career high, 30% from 3. This season, career high, 72% from the free throw line. Still, not great numbers, but he has been improving. What he is a great playmaker, and a great defender, and he leads the or he doesn't lead. He's in the top 10 in the Big 12 for both assists and steals per game. But definitely would like to see. Definitely agree. He's going to have. I don't think he would be drafted if he came out this year with those shooting numbers, unless somehow he suddenly got on some kind of hot streak in the tournament and improved in private workouts that he could continue to shoot from deep. I will say that Damion was suspended for the first few games of the season because he did test the NBA waters last year. He did go to Portsmouth, and apparently that's a violation if you decide to come back and play, which he did. And so he was suspended for doing that. So he certainly wanted to go, or seemingly was thinking about going last year. So
I believe he hired an agent that wasn't certified. I think that's what the suspension was.
Oh, I thought it had something to do with Portsmouth.
I can look it up to make sure. Yeah. Oh,
you think he hired one of those agents that wasn't approved on the approved list?
Yeah, I believe that's what the suspension was for.
Okay, all right. I thought it had to do with going to Portsmouth. Because I thought if you hired the wrong agent, which shouldn't be too hard to do, to hire the right agent.
Yeah, I mean, they give you a list.
Is he on the list or not? But anyway. All right, so here's a guy that we mentioned, I don't know, a few weeks ago, and I've been meaning to take a longer look at Cam Shelton for Loyola Marymount. I knew he was doing well. I had only seen him like once or twice this season. And I really focused in and looked at him longer this week, and man, I'm impressed. I don't know how you guys feel, but I'm just going to run over some of Cam's numbers since we haven't talked to him or talked about him before. And right now, and by the way, this is kind of like, even though he's a fifth-year senior, meaning he's out of eligibility, this is kind of like a breakout season for him. He's never really put up, well, at least not at Loyola. I mean, last year Loyola, his numbers were not good, but this year 21.5 points per game, 4.2 rebounds, 5.4 rebounds, 4.2 assists, and 1.8 steals. Shooting splits are lovely. 49% from the field, 38% from deep, 70 from the free throw line. You'd like to see that a little higher for a point guard. But, after watching him, I'm really impressed with his ability to score at all three levels. I think, we've talked about a lot of little guys this season, and most of the time we're like, no, too small. And I think of a lot of the little guys we looked at, I'm thinking he might be my favorite. I mean, not counting people like Mike Miles and guys like that, but, a lot of the guys we talked about that are on the fringe of being second round picks, I think he might be my favorite. What do you think, Booney?
Before I get to Shelton, what do you guys think of Brandon Posednik getting co-player of the year with Timmy?
Oh, did he?
Yeah, they were co-player of the year, Santa Clara.
Yeah, well, he had a beautiful season, and he's only a sophomore, correct?
No, I believe he's a junior.
Is he?
I could be wrong.
Well, he missed the year somewhere, I think, in the transfer process.
Maybe you might be right. I lose a little bit as I get older in that COVID year.
He's an Illinois transfer. But we talked about him. I don't know. I think we may have talked about him when you first joined the show.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Cam Shelton. I mean, everything you say is right. Here's the issue with Shelton. And I put a big emphasis on this. And I think it's huge when these kids are competing his age. He's 23 years old.
That is correct.
And a 23-year-old playing against a 19-year-old or there's a big difference there.
Yes.
Humongous difference. He shoots the ball a lot. Last 5 games, I believe 3 out of 4 of the last 5 is over 20 attempts per game. Like I said, everything you're saying is right as far as him playing at the next level in the NBA as somebody that gets picked up. Maybe. But there's an advantage to somebody that's 23 years old.
No, I agree. And he is very, very strong. He's a strong little guy. By the way, when we're talking about, he's not just doing this against slugs. I mean, he did this against BYU 27. And I'm going in reverse order of his schedule. He put up 27 against BYU, 32 against Pepperdine, 40 against Pacific, only 15 against Gonzaga, but then 36 against Santa Clara, 31 against St. Mary's. So I mean, this guy just fills it up.
No question.
And I will say this: we were talking about Boogie Ellis shooting high volume off the dribble. Shelton shoots even more off the dribble. In that sense, and off the catch this year, he's hardly taken any shots off the catch because he's always on the move. But when he has 97th percentile for points per possession, so that is a good sign, for him to play off the ball too, if they so desired. I was just comparing him to people like Kendrick Davis and Isaiah Stevens and those guys that we've talked about recently that are around the same height. And I just think that, you look at his athleticism. He's a lefty, by the way. If you look at his athleticism, his body, his all-around game, being able to finish at the rim and being able to shoot and being able to pass, I just think out of those types of guys that we talked about, the Stevens and the Davises and other guys in that realm, I think he's the best one.
So on those three, Stevens, here's a question for both of you guys. On Stevens, Davis, and Shelton, I would go Stevens, Davis, Shelton.
Stevens, wow. I would go Shelton, Stevens, Davis.
Okay. Oh, Jake?
I think I'd agree with you, Bodie.
Yeah.
I'd roll with you.
Yeah. But I get it. He's really good, but yeah.
Right. Okay. All right. Moving right along. We're the stock following. We only have 2 players this week. And one is probably going to be a first-round pick. And I'm not saying by putting him on stock following that he's not going to be a first-round pick. But, again, it's just one of these guys that all of a sudden, I mean, arguably, he was better as a freshman than he has been as a sophomore. And he definitely did test the NBA waters. But more disturbing as they've moved from being solidly in the NCAA tournament to now a little bit on the bubble, he's really hit the skids at the wrong time. Again, I'm going to go back in reverse order of his schedule. Against Duke, 2 for 9, 8 points. Clemson, 3 of 15 for 10 points. Wake Forest, which is not a good defensive team, 5 of 14 for 13 points. North Carolina, 5 of 16 for 12 points. Syracuse, 5 of 16 for 14 points. You get what I'm going. Those are his last 5 games. And if you go through all his numbers, most of them, beside assists, he's really has fallen off from last year. So we're talking about, I don't even know if I said it. We're talking about Terquavion Smith of NC State. So, he tested the draft waters. A lot of people thought he was going to come out last year and be a late first rounder. I don't think he's improved his draft standing this year. So what are your guys' thoughts? Booney?
Disappointed in Terquavion. I was really high on him this year. I don't even think he's the best player on the team. I think Joyner is. To be honest, he has just been casting shots. Everything is a force. He shoots his team out of games. So disappointed in Terquavion. He has gotten worse, and I was extremely high on him. Great athleticism, great height, great explosiveness. And he just has not been able to put the ball in the hole. Almost little over 30% from 3. Turns the ball over a ton. I don't know what to make of him just because I was so darn high on him early.
Right. I thought he was a potential lottery pick, and he started our year probably in the mid-teens.
He'll get drafted, yeah.
Right. And now we have him like in the mid-20s. Could he drop a little further? Yeah. Could he rise a little bit? Yeah. I mean, here's what we know. He's an excellent athlete. He tested out brilliantly. last year, especially in terms of speed and quickness. Also has nice vertical. He played very well in the combine games. He was one of the top performers. And his speed really stood out. But what you don't see him this year is really going aggressively to the hole. You see him settling for a lot of floaters, a lot of pull-up jumpers. Again, high volume, off the dribble jumpers. And I think one of the things that concerns me, so you could say, okay, it's shot selection. But one of the things that concerns me is his shooting. He never seems to shoot the same way twice. I don't know if you notice that, Booney. Sometimes his shot has a nice arc to it, and then sometimes it looks like a damn line drive.
It's a low release, so he has to kind of compensate that if someone's flying at him and so forth. So yeah, I think that's part of the reason too.
But I mean, the two guys we talked about before, Shelton and Boogie Ellis, they don't have the same problems. They don't, even though they're shooting ton off the dribble as well, it looks smooth. With Smith, it looks like herky jerky.
Yeah, I mean, Ellis is a pure shooter. I don't think you can even come close to comparing as far as shooting technique and style as far as a Boogie Ellis to a Terquavion Smith. Yeah.
But then again, what good is all that speed and quickness if you're just going to take jump shots?
I think he has something to prove for the draft, which is why I have a problem with him too.
And he has done that as a passer. I mean, his assists have gone way up. And he also, another thing I noticed about him, he can pass one-handed with either hand. That's not everybody can do that.
And here's a comment for you guys, both of you guys. I think one of the purest old school jump shooters is on that team, and that's Joyner. I don't know if you guys have seen, he is pretty to watch. He has, because right now everybody, as far as their jump shot has changed from it's kind of like a combination set shot jump shot. It's right there in the middle, right?
Right.
He is an old school jump shooter who explodes off and is just picturesque to watch shoot it. Reminds me not quite, but the same type of explosiveness as like a Reddick.
Right.
Pretty.
Right.
Pretty.
Yeah. Joyner, he was in our top 200 midway through the season, and then he went into the slump, and he's never popped back in the top 200, though I have noticed of late, while Smith has been in the slump, Joyner's been picking it up. The problem with Joyner, one of the problems, and it's a sad thing to say, but a lot of talented guys, he's only 6 foot. That's
the only thing. Yeah, I'm just talking about
so, and he's not a great defender, and he's not even a very good passer. Playmaker.
No, I hear you. I'm just purely jump shot. Yeah.
Yeah, he's a scorer. He's a little scorer, Okay, so we have a short stock following list. So we have one more guy on there, and that is Khalif Battle. And I'm going to let Jake run with most of this. He hasn't played for Temple since February 16th, which ironically, here's the interesting thing. I think just before that game, maybe a week before, we had him on stock rising.
Yeah.
And he hasn't played. Basically hasn't played since we had him on stock rising. Maybe he heard the show and thinks he's too good for Temple. I don't know. Jake, you want to run with what's going on with Khalif Battle?
So I'll take over here.
Khalif Battle, excuse me.
Yes, Khalif Battle, yes. So yeah, because he goes to my alma mater, which is weird to say because I just graduated in December and it feels weird to say that, but yeah, it's been bumpy. Now he played 7 games last year, was averaging over 21 points a game, was terrific. You look at his splits, 58% from 2, over 48% from 3, 80% from the free throw line. Nuclear splits. I mean, on fire. This year, not so much of the same. He takes a lot of shots, a lot of questionable shots, a lot of bad shots, but he's on a team where they need him to score.
Right.
Now, the big thing you mentioned, he hasn't played since February 16th. He's had a couple of disagreements with the coaching staff this week. They played Vanderbilt earlier this year, did not log a ton of minutes in that game, and I believe he only played 3 or 4 in the second half. And when Aaron McKee was asked, and that game went overtime. When Aaron McKee was asked about why he wasn't on the floor, he was quoted saying, "I played the guys who I thought wanted to be out there." I had a disagreement with the coaching staff then. Now it seems like there's more of the same. He's been coming off the bench pretty much the whole year, to the surprise of me and a lot of other people who, when we looked at his numbers last year, we thought he would have started. But maybe some. I can't speculate. There hasn't been any concrete details that have come out, but it just seems like he's kind of a head case, and this isn't the first time he's had a disagreement with the coaching staff this year. And when you look at the way he plays, sometimes kind of reckless, forcing shots. Now he can hit some difficult ones. If you saw him in the first half of the Houston game, he was hitting some absolutely ridiculous shots that Houston defended well. He was just able to hit them. He's got some great explosiveness. He can stop on a dime. He can get to the basket. But the downside is all those character issues, I guess you could say. It seems like there's an inevitable breakup here. He's not going to be with the team for the AAC tournament. Hasn't been with them, like you said, since February 16th.
Well, the Philadelphia Inquirer reported yesterday, I believe, that he is no longer with the team.
Yes. Yep. So he's not with them anymore. I believe Aaron McKee and I read that article. I'm just waiting for something to come out as to why, besides just like a disagreement with the coaching staff. We seem to be speculating.
Right.
But McKee's going to talk to him. It's definitely going to come after the year. And they'll talk if they'll stay together, if they can work things out, if they can go both ways. But with when you have issues like this, I don't see this getting any better. I don't think he can play up at a Power 5 school and they'll allow him to do the things he did here because Temple needed offense besides Damion Baugh, and he was that guy for them who led him in scoring. So I don't think he's going to play Power 5. He's from North Jersey. If you want my prediction for next year, I think he transfers down to maybe a school close to where he's from, and he plays at a smaller school where he's featured in a prominent role where he's able to do the shooting that he's done at Temple.
Like a Fordham, maybe?
Something along those lines.
Fordham's a tough school academically.
Yeah. I saw a Rhode Island page put something out there that they think he would be a good fit, and he's somebody to monitor. But then I look at Rhode Island, they just dismissed Brayon Freeman this year, and if Caleb Battle's going to act up there, it seems like Archie Miller's going to have no problem dismissing him there. So,
Jake, you like McKee?
I do, and I really want it to work out. But the thing is, Booney, like we're going on year 5, and if they lose on Friday against Cincinnati, he will have never won a game in the AAC tournament before.
Is that right?
I like him. Now, there's some stuff that's happening out of his control. Obviously, the AAC, the big teams are moving. You're getting all these small schools coming in from the south. Temple's going to be the northernmost school in the league. And are you going to be able to recruit high-level Philadelphia players to play against Rice and North Texas and Louisiana Tech? I don't know if that's going to happen.
What are Temple's options as far as other conferences? I've heard that they've wanted to join the Big East, but Villanova continually blocks it. Is that true, or is that?
I don't know if that's true. I know Villanova won't play games at the Palestra, so maybe that's true if they won't do that. But their options are a little bit limited. The reason I say that is because they're hanging on to football as their crown jewel, almost as opposed to basketball. That with John Chaney, historically, it's one of the best programs as far as wins.
Yeah.
That's really what they're at.
Temple is like top 3 all time in basketball wins.
I think they're 5. Now, I think Syracuse is coming up on them.
All right. Okay, so top 5. I mean,
but their options are limited because they want to stick to football. And if that's the case, you can't join an A-10 or a Big East that's basketball-centric and doesn't have those football schools that you can join right away. And I think they'll stick with the American.
Well, Connecticut did it in the Big East. I mean, they held on to football.
They're all that seems to be what they're hanging their head on. I think what they're trying to do is Temple still thinks that they can make the same magic happen that they had with Matt Rule, and they want to hold on to that and prioritize that more so.
How long did that last? Like 2 years?
Yeah, it wasn't long, but they were ranked. They sold out the link for a game against Notre Dame. They put a bunch of guys in the league. Hassan Reddick played in the Super Bowl. Like, they had a good stretch. They're just prioritizing that. Yeah. And because of that, I think they won't declare as an independent. They're going to work. They're going to make it, whatever conference they decide to join, stay in. It will be primarily based on football. Because if it wasn't, I think they would have already gone back to the A-10. But football is like,
to me, as far as McKee, you figure he's a Philly guy. He is a Temple guy. He has that old school, tough mentality that I don't think is carrying over to today's players. That's my feel. I don't know that.
Well, John Chaney wouldn't have let Khalif Battle play the way he did. So he's not like John Chaney. John Chaney would have.
McKee wasn't McKee a John Chaney guy?
Huh?
Yeah.
Yes, he was. Yes, he
yeah.
was. But John Chaney wouldn't let Caleb battle play like he did this season or last season. So I'm saying he's a little more flexible than John Chaney.
Yeah, but, I mean, yeah.
By the way, getting back to battle, going to someplace like Rhode Island or whatever would not be good for him. He doesn't. The problem with this kid is he has a lot of talent, but he's not a team player.
Right.
In various regards. And if he goes someplace where he has to be the man, like Antonio Davis at Detroit Mercy, yeah, he'll put up great numbers and he'll look good. And you know what? He could kiss his NBA career goodbye because it's going to mean nothing.
No, I think you're right. I don't think this is a guy you touch if you're an NBA. If you're in
no, we already yeah. I mean, he was on our top 200. Now he's not.
Yeah. I think that's where it stands. But like I said, if you had to ask me, I think he transfers down to a place where he can be the guy. But I don't think there's an NBA future here strictly on the character concerns and everything. Because this isn't the first time that they've had a run-in with he's had a disagreement with the coaching staff, and now it's to the point where he's just not with the team anymore.
Right.
And for me, he
didn't last for Butler very long either.
Nope.
And so we're not really even sure what went on there. So, right. All right, so we wish Mr. Battle the best of luck. I just hope he gets in a situation and matures. All right, so now we're going to move on to our game predictions, but this week it's going to be conference tourney predictions. And Booney and I started this last week. I
dominated. I was keeping track.
So I haven't tallied the score.
I did.
Okay, great.
Well,
I figured we'd leave the tournaments and we'd tally that all up at once.
Sure, no, I'm just giving you a hard time.
So last week we did the Missouri Valley, Sunbelt, the SoCon, Horizon, Colonial, and WCC. Only two of those have had their finals yet. So the rest are still to be determined. As far as game action, we also picked 27 games.
I got dominated there. Yeah.
Last week, I finally regained my weekly title. Booney had won 2 weeks in a row. I was 19-8. Booney was 16-11. It didn't change our overall percentages, by the way, Booney. You're still trailing Maverick. You got to pass Maverick. I'm rooting for you to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So for those who didn't hear last week, what we're doing is we're picking a tourney winner and a runner-up. And for both teams, you will earn their wins and losses. You also can get bonus wins or get bonus losses. You get a bonus if either of your teams makes the conference finals. You get another bonus if you pick the correct champion. At the same time, if either of your teams do not make the conference championship, you will lose a loss for each one that doesn't make the championship. I don't have that worded that way, by the way, but that's what we meant. So if you want to hire a lawyer, Booney, you can, because I don't have the rules written that way. So, all right. So we're going to start off. This is in alphabetical order, and we're going to start off with the American Conference. Is there much mystery here, Booney?
I picked Houston over Tulane in the finals.
Yeah, I mean, do you see anybody? Maybe.
I think it's a 3-team race. I think it's Houston, Memphis, Tulane. This Tulane team's good, real good. And I think that's who it's going to come down to. Cincinnati's real good too. I just don't see. I don't see them getting by Houston in the 1-4 game.
Right.
Who knows? Temple. Never know.
Right. Jake is laughing. So you said Houston over Memphis, correct, sir?
No, Houston over Tulane.
Oh, all righty.
I tried to do my best here to not just go with the chalk for each of these because it's been chaos so far, and a lot of I believe we have 5 1 seeds in the conference tournaments that have already been knocked out with Youngstown and and then Drake beating Bradley and so on. So Washington losing to Northern Arizona, who was the 9 in the Big Sky. But of course, I'm going to say that, and then I'm going to pick the chalk here. I think we're going to have a repeat of last year's AAC championship game. It's going to be Houston. It's going to be Memphis, and then Houston's going to beat them. I think Tulane could definitely give I believe they're on the side of Memphis. They would give them a run for their money, but give me a repeat of last year's championship game, and I'll take the Cougars to not only win the American, but all season they have been my pick to win the national championship.
My dark horse in this tournament is UCF, but I don't think. Where is this tournament?
UCF's in the.
This is played in Texas.
It's played at Fort Worth at Dickies Arena. Which only, from what I understand,
that's near Houston's, isn't it?
I think it's a little. I'm not too sure, but I don't. Probably a little bit of a drive from Houston to the Dallas Fort Worth area, I guess.
Okay.
But here's the thing: nobody shows up there anyway. Dickies Arena, from what I understand, has 2 things that go on there. It is the AAC tournament, and I think they have a rodeo there. There's not a team, as far as I know. There's not really like a major team that's designated there. They host 2 things every year.
So you went with Houston and Memphis, correct?
Yep.
All right. So I'm going to go with Houston over UCF. How do you like that?
There you go.
Nice.
All right. Now we're going to get into Jake's wheelhouse here in the A10. Jake, you want to start us off?
Yeah, so I have a bit of a dark horse here who I've liked all year, who I've responsibly placed a wager at 17-1 to win this tournament because I love the value, and I'm going to pick them as my champion here. I'm going to go with the Duquesne Dukes.
Wow.
To get the automatic bid here. I like their scoring. They're deep. They've been getting better defensively this year. I'm going to take them to beat VCU in the championship game because VCU has been mowing over teams.
Yeah.
They just mowed over St. Joe's not too long ago, and they were absolutely terrific there. So I'm going to go Duquesne over VCU. Keith Dambrot leading an insane turnaround from last year, and they will make the NCAA tournament.
Aren't you
number 1 seed on the way there?
Aren't you the bold one? How about you, Booney?
In this new era of the 3-point shot and guards dominating the ball and the game for what we have seen, basketball will always be a big man's game. And the big man is most important in March. Dayton over St. Louis with Deron Holmes making a mark for his name at the top half of the first round.
Wow. Interesting. I too am picking Dayton, probably more so with my heart because they just had such a mess of a season with players getting hurt and in and out. And now Mongolian Mike, we found out just before the show, is hurt. We don't know if he's going to miss the entire tournament or not. But I am still Dayton's reasonably healthy. And so I am going to go with Dayton and their big front line over VCU. They split with those 2 teams, and they were both pretty crazy games, if I remember correctly. Next up is the ACC tournament. Booney, you want to start us off?
Yeah, I'm just looking at this right now. Jeez. You know, I like Pitt over. Jeez, what a tough one. I like Pitt to win over. Oh, golly. Give me Pitt. This is brutal. This is tough. This is like unreal. I like Pitt to win over, so it's going to have to be I like Pitt to win over Virginia.
Pitt over Virginia. Interesting. Jake, what are you thinking?
So I'm going to go with Virginia to make the championship game, but my Duke Blue Devils are screaming hot, winners of 6 in a row coming into this tournament. I think they're playing the best out of anybody in the ACC. I look at the tournament bracket; it's brutal. I almost don't want to pick any of them to make the championship game because I was at Boston College a couple weeks ago. Virginia was out of that game for pretty much 80% of it, and Boston College controlled it. So I'll take Virginia to make the championship game. I don't think they'll win, but I will go with those Duke Blue Devils to cut down the nets in Greensboro, where the tournament should be. Stop having it in Brooklyn. Keep it in Greensboro.
I like that. Yeah, you're right.
They're hot, man.
Yeah, no, they are hot.
I was worried about them. They took their lumps early, but now they're hitting.
They're defending. They're playing some defense. They're really defending hard.
Lively's come alive too. Lively's been great.
He has been. Yeah, you're right.
I think the Duke Miami winner wins this tourney. That much I'm sold on. Are you ready for my pick, though? I'm going to go with Miami over Virginia Tech, the team that made a run last year. Virginia Tech can put up points. The question is, can they play defense? But they have a lot of shooters. And in this team, I just think that they're better than their record. I know they got to run through a lot of pretty good teams on that side. But I'm just I've been liking this team all year. I like the way they pass. I like the way they shoot. So I'm going to go with Miami over Virginia Tech. All right. So now we're moving on to the Big 12.
You guys, I don't think are going to like my picks, but I think one team that's ready to break out, that played great ball down the stretch, and I'm going with them, is Texas Tech. Got Texas Tech winning the Big 12 over who I feel is maybe the most athletic and the strongest defensive team in the Big 12, Oklahoma State. Wow. Texas Tech over Oklahoma State bucket.
Wow. That is the craziest. I would have never guessed that in a million years.
Of course not.
Do we know that Mark Adams is suspended?
He is.
Okay. No, I just wanted to throw that out there because I think that's why.
I missed that. I missed that.
On the table.
I think that.
Why did he get suspended?
He made what was perceived as some racist comments towards a player, I believe it was.
Yes. Yep.
His own player or
his own player?
His own player.
Huh.
Yeah. So he is suspended.
How odd.
Yeah.
Jake, what do you got here?
Wow. I didn't see that one coming at
No,
all.
I didn't either.
So I will take the defending champions, Kansas Jayhawks. I think they'll make the championship game, but there's a team in this conference that I've talked about a bunch on the show. I think when they're healthy, they are a top 10 team in the country, and that is the TCU Horned Frogs. I think they will run the table, win the Big 12 tournament over the defending champions.
Wow.
Win the season series over them 2-1.
We should note that Eddie Lampkin, who's been hobbled by an ankle for, I don't know, what, 3 weeks or so?
Yeah, it's been ever since that Kansas game. It's been on and off, and I think he tries to play even though he's not 100%.
Right, so they sat him out Saturday in that loss to West Virginia, which was probably voluntarily. He probably, Right. Who lost to West Virginia? Oh, Kansas State. Right. So they probably just sat him out, to give him some rest. But yeah, we don't know about his status. But he didn't play in the last game. So I like your thinking, Jake. I like your thinking. But I'm gonna go just a little different. I'm gonna go with KU, who's been playing really well, over TCU. All right, so now we move on to the Big East. Now we're in my wheelhouse.
There you go. Big East, simple for me. UConn over Creighton.
Wow. What do you think, Jake?
That's exactly what I was going to say. Now that Zach Fremantle's out for the year for Xavier,
that hurts, yeah.
Creighton can definitely get out of that side for sure, and Creighton does not have to play Providence, does not have to play Marquette, does not have to play UConn unless it would be theoretically in the championship game. I think Creighton's got a pretty easy path to make the championship, but UConn's been on a tear. I believe they won 8 of 9. They just dominated Villanova for the last 5 minutes of the first half and the entire second half, and they started out hot. They took their lumps. Now they're really hitting their stride, just as I said that Duke was, and because of that, I'm going to take UConn to win it all here, and they're going to be a problem and a definite contender for the Final Four in the tournament.
So you're taking the same exact pick as Booney?
Yes.
Wow. All right, give me a second to think about this, guys, because Marquette has played so well this year. It is in the Garden, and I know Connecticut will have a slight home court. It just always happens at the Garden. I've been to the Big East tournament many years. So UConn will have. So I'm going to go with UConn on that side. On the other side, if Xavier was fully healthy, I think I would go with them over Creighton. Creighton, though, might have to face Villanova, will probably face Villanova, which could give them a little trouble. Though Seton Hall could probably give Xavier a little trouble. So I'm going to go with Creighton to fly out to that side. And now the champion will be Connecticut over Creighton.
Okay. Okay, all three of us, huh?
I agree with your guys' logic. All right, so now we're moving on to the Big Ten.
All right, here's another one. A team that was playing excellent ball from the beginning to about the midpoint year, struggled for a long stretch, and for the last several games has been turned it around quite well. And before you guys go nuts, I'm going to explain to you who they have to play to get there. I have Ohio State winning the Big Ten tournament. Hang on. Here is who they have to beat. Wisconsin.
Struggling.
Iowa.
Doesn't play well on the road.
Michigan State.
So.
Purdue.
Been beating teams, but only by the skin of their teeth.
Ohio State beats Northwestern in the finals.
Wow. Booney's going crazy today.
I mean, I don't know if it's that. I mean, it's, you can't tell me that there's no chance there.
No.
Only challenge there.
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying is bold.
Yeah, right. No, I know what you mean, but I'm just saying, I'm looking at the team, who they have to play and how they've been playing. Of course, they have to beat Wisconsin today, or is that tomorrow, I believe. And Purdue, they almost beat at home. I like that Ohio State team. I've liked them all year, and I know they've struggled lately, and I think they're going to win the Big Ten.
They've actually played a little better since Zed Key went out for the season. I'm not putting it on Zed. I'm just saying that's the way it kind of worked out.
Yeah.
Jake, what do you got?
So, first of all, I don't think any of these teams are going to do anything in the tournament, just as they really don't do every year. I'm going to take Indiana to win. And as much shit as I talked on the Michigan Wolverines, I'm going to pick them to lose to Indiana in the championship game.
So I actually think that Michigan, as I said at the top, I think Michigan's a talented team. I really do. And I think of the teams that didn't get a bye, I think Michigan and Illinois are the two very dangerous teams. I think Illinois takes out Northwestern. But I don't think Michigan can get by Purdue. So here's where I'm going to go with. I'm going to go with Indiana and a tough one over Illinois. And I'm going to go with Purdue to kind of just, they probably won't blow anybody out, but I think they're going to eke their way all the way to the finals. And then my boys, the Hoosiers, who I've been riding all year, are going to win the Big Ten tournament over Purdue. All right, so now we're moving on to the Big West. Who you guys got?
Hey, Hawaii makes games ugly, and they can defend. Irvine is not the same Irvine we have been known to see in the past. I like Hawaii in the finals, and I like them beating a game Riverside team.
All righty.
I'm going to agree with Booney. I'm not going to take Hawaii to win, but I'm going to take them to make the final, and they're going to fall to the UCSB Gauchos, who will make their second tournament in 3 years.
Yeah, I really like Santa Barbara. I really do. I know Irvine handled them the first time out, but I'm going to go with UCSB over Irvine. All right, so now we move on to Conference US. Boy, you know what? We've had some interesting picks so far. So we're going to move on to Conference USA. What are you guys thinking here? This is an interesting one because you got three teams that you could certainly might be able to make an argument for North Texas and UAB as at large, as Booney mentioned at the top.
I think it's going to be a one-team. I think it may be a two-team conference. I think they're playing with a mission. They got Walker back. I like UAB over Florida Atlantic in the finals.
What are you thinking, Jake?
Yeah, I'm going to roll with that exact same matchup, as great as FAU's been all year. And I believe they're slated at an 8 or a 9 seed right now as it stands in a lot of people's projections. But I think the Blazers are going to spoil the party, and Jelly Walker is going to get this team in for the second year in a row.
Yeah, and Eric Gaines is a fine backcourt mate, though he's been cold lately. But you put Gaines' athleticism with Walker's scoring, and they also have some height on this team, length. I really do like this UAB team. I think they're going to be a bid stealer. I think they're going to beat Florida Atlantic, and Florida Atlantic's still going to get in, and somebody's going to be sad because of that. All right, so the next up we have the MAC, the Mid-American Conference.
I've always said
it's been a 3-team race.
I've always said Toledo's one of the best offensive teams in the country from the beginning of the year, but they could never defend. A perfect game was they played Marshall earlier in the year. I think the final score was 100-85. As of late, they have defended and are scoring. They are playing some of the best basketball in the country that no one knows about. Toledo over Akron.
Yeah, I think Toledo is going to win. I think they're going to beat Kent State in Bowdoin Flashes, though. And just as a bonus, please, 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 in the tournament, give me a Xavier Toledo game so I can bet the over responsibly. They're going to score a shit ton. Or a ton in that game.
All righty. I, too, like Toledo. It's a tough call between Akron and Kent State, though Akron hasn't, Booney was very high on them early season, and I liked them, too. But they just haven't put it together of late. So I'm going to have to agree with Jake with Toledo over Kent. All right. Next up, the Mountain West. Now we're in the Booney's wheelhouse.
This team has one of the top 3 players that anybody has in the whole conference in Baker, the 2 guards, geez, why are they slipping my name? For Nevada. Blackshear,
who was on the
and
show.
their leading scorer, which is the Oregon State transfer.
Jared Lucas.
Thank you.
Jared Lucas, yeah.
I like Nevada upsetting San Diego State in the semis, and I like them beating who I feel is one of the top starting 5s around, Boise State. Nevada over Boise State.
What do you think of Jake?
So I'm going to take San Diego State to win. I had a future on them to win the regular season, which just cash. I just think they're head and shoulders above everybody else. Size, experience, guards, some shooters. So I'm going to take San Diego State to win, but I think they're going to get a great game from a very feisty Utah State team. And if you remember a couple years ago before COVID, this is the 3-year anniversary of the Sam Merrill buzzer beater. Spoil that 30-1 San Diego State team's regular season and conference tournament winning season. So give me the Aztecs over the Aggies, but the Aggies run that they have will put them in the tournament.
I agree with Jake. I think San Diego State is the clear best team in this conference. They remind me a lot in this sense of UAB, where I say, they have a lot of length, they have a lot of athleticism, but San Diego State has better depth. Plays better defense than UAB. Of course, I'm mixing conferences here, but I hope Booney's right, because we have a great relationship with the University of Nevada, and we're friends with them. But I got to go with San Diego State, and then it comes down to Boise and Utah State, and I'm going to go with Utah State. I'm just going to go with that shooting. I love that shooting that they have. So there you go. San Diego State over Utah State. All right, Pac-12. This should be a fun one. What do you got, Booney?
They just know how to win games. UCLA and Arizona look darn impressive over SC. UCLA over Arizona.
Yes, I should. Couple of key injuries in this tournament. We have Jalen Clark. We're not sure of his status for the tournament. Or are we, Jake? Did we get that clarified?
They said he's out for this week. I would assume that means he's going to miss the tournament.
Oh, and then Colorado, who will most likely face up, they are going to be missing their leading scorer. The sophomore guard, what's his name? KJ
Simpson.
KJ Simpson is a good chance he's going to miss this tournament. All right, so who are you going with, Jake?
I'm going to roll with an all LA final here. I'm going to take UCLA over USC. No Jalen Clark, no problem. I love the job Mick Cronin's done, and I think if there's an early slip up from Purdue in the Big Ten tournament, I'm all in favor of letting UCLA get on the one line.
All right. So Amari Bailey's going to be he's going to probably have to pick it up for Jalen Clark. That should be interesting. Given that we don't know about Jalen Clark, who's probably the best defender in the conference and just an overall impact player, even when he's not scoring, I love Jalen Clark. I'm going to say UCLA survives all that and gets to the final, but I have to go with Arizona in the final. They're 1-1, each one at home, so I'm going to go with Arizona over UCLA. All right. So next up is the SEC tournament. Who you got, Booney?
This team's dying to break out, and I feel they have all the pieces for the right amount of time. Arkansas over Missouri.
Interesting. Arkansas does not have a bye.
I realize.
Neither does Tennessee. Tennessee missed out on the bye by losing on Saturday. What do you got, Jake? What are you thinking?
So I was going back and forth on A&M and Kentucky because I think if Kentucky is going to get Cason Wallace and Saver Wheeler back, they can absolutely win this tournament. But I love what I've been seeing from Texas A&M. I think Buzz Williams will have this team ready to play. They are going to win the SEC tournament after losing in the championship game last year, which didn't allow them to get into the tournament. I'm going to pick them to beat Bama just as they did this past Saturday and win.
Wow. This is a tough bracket. I am going to go with Tennessee to roll all the way out on the one side. I think they take down Alabama. I think first they got to get by Missouri, and even before that, they got to beat the team South Carolina, Ole Miss. By the way, Tennessee's missing Zakai Ziegler, but their defense is still there, and it can give anybody problems. But I'm still going to run them out to the final. It's the other side that I really have a tough time with. But I think I'm going to have to agree here with Jake. I like A&M, and I'm going to go with A&M over Tennessee.
Good man.
So the last time I was at the WAC tournament, Booney, you want to know who was playing in the finals?
Who's that?
It was UTEP over Colorado State, I believe.
Was that Tim Hardaway? No, that was.
Yes.
It was.
Hardaway was the point guard for UTEP. So
wow.
That just goes to show you how old I am. All right. So New Mexico State, why are they forfeiting all their games?
It's a hazing scandal.
Hazing, yes. Thank you. That was the hazing.
And it's somehow worse than the murder that took place on that team.
Is that crazy?
Yeah.
Is
that was
crazy?
only the second craziest thing to happen to them this year.
Jesus Christ.
New Mexico State dominates this conference, but not so this year. So, what are you guys thinking?
In the WAC? So I got a little hometown biased on this one, and a big group of us who are from the area I am in, which Drew's in from too. Head coach of Seattle University by the name of Chris Victor. I actually coached when he was younger. He went on to play a little bit of JC, then went on to play at Concordia University, NAIA school, won a national championship. And everyone's pulling for him where I'm from right now. So I'm going to go with Chris Victor and Seattle University to get a win over do they match up against them? Yeah, over Utah Valley.
All righty.
So yeah, that'd be a hell of a win for Seattle if they could win despite losing Darion Trammell to San Diego State. However, I'm going to take Utah Valley to beat the number 1 seed in Sam Houston State. I really wish my Grand Canyon Antelopes were here, but a season-ending injury to Javon Blackshear Jr. kind of ended that. But give me Mark Madsen here to get Utah Valley back into the tournament.
They are talented. I mean, yeah.
I am going to go with Utah Valley. I'm going to use Booney's dominant big man theory. They have a sophomore named Aziz, and let me get this right, Bandago. Am I saying that properly?
Yeah, for Utah Valley, yeah.
He's one of the leading rebounders in the country, one of the leading shot blockers in the country, and only a sophomore. So I haven't actually seen him play. He's certainly on our radar based on the numbers he's putting up. But that should be interesting. So, yep. So now we're done with our predictions and some interesting ones there, gentlemen. Very well done. Well done. All right. So now we're coming down the stretch. We got the mailbag. Trevor wants to know, what stats do you think are most important when picking your bracket? By the way, we found out that one of our colleagues yesterday, Cam Real, suggested that we pick our brackets based on what treats our dogs eat. Have different bowls, and one bowl represents one team and the other bowl represents another team. You put 2 dog treats in there, and whatever your dog, whichever bowl he picks, that's the pick you pick for your bracket. I don't think that's the way to pick a bracket, and I hope Cam picks his bracket that way and gets into our bracket contest that I'm hoping to have among the group. Anyone have any thoughts on when you're picking your bracket? Are there any particular stats you're looking at? I know, Booney, you were talking the other day about road wins and road losses.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's always important as far as what a team is basically doing in that situation. I mean, that stat was quite amazing to me. I didn't realize how overwhelming some teams that are picked to be in the tournament 2-3 road wins all year. Those are the couple teams that I have going far in the tournament. So, the big thing I'm looking at right now is the team that's going to control tempo. And when you're controlling tempo, and one thing you got to look at in the NCAA tournament this year, more so than any other year, is the parity. A lot of teams are very, very similar in talent, and more than any other year can beat anyone else. I'm looking for the team that's going to take care of the ball. Turnover is the big thing I'm looking at. A team that has strong guard play and a dominant big man. I've been saying it all year long. A team that can control tempo, and if they can establish inside out, is the team that's going to win the tournament. And those teams, in just off the top of my head, are UConn, Kentucky, Purdue, Gonzaga, that can possibly win this whole thing.
All right. Any particular stats that you like to emphasize when you're picking your bracket, Jake?
So turnovers is definitely huge. You look at a team like Marquette, defensively, their numbers aren't great, but they're very good at turning you over, which masks that. So, yeah, turnovers are absolutely huge. Second for me, which is also equally as big, how do you shoot the 3-ball? How do you defend the 3-ball? If you're going to let teams shoot the ball, if you're going to give up open looks, and a team's going to shoot 40% from behind the arc, then if you're a Cinderella, you're done for. You're probably not going to be able to overcome that. Vice versa. Especially for mid-majors and for smaller schools, you're going to have to be able to shoot the ball and have a good performance from behind there. Now, I agree with a little bit of what Booney said. It's great to have a dominant big guy, but in March, this is a guard game. Look at the last 4 champions. Look at last year, Kansas. DeJuan Harris as a freshman was great. Remy Martin had a great performance in the tournament. 2 first-round picks in Ochai Agbaji and Christian Brown. The year before with Baylor, Macy O'T, Jared Butler, Davion Mitchell, 2 guys that got drafted. Obviously, scrap the COVID year. Look at that Virginia team and Ty Jerome and Kyle Guy. And the year before, you look at that Villanova team. Jalen Brunson won the Naismith Award, and DiVincenzo had a huge performance in the championship game. So turnovers, how do you defend the 3-ball? How do you shoot the 3-ball? But more importantly, when it gets to crunch time, conference tournaments, NCAA tournament, this is a guards game.
All right. Here's what I've learned over the years is that you stay away from teams that rely on defense. Now, Tennessee would be a perfect example. They are a prime candidate. I mean, even if they had Zakai Ziegler, they would be a prime candidate to lose early because they just can't distance themselves a lot of times because they can't score. Now, a lot of times their defense does generate points, and that's wound up with some blowouts, but we've also seen them where they struggle to get to 60. But there are other teams out there that just rely on defense too much. So what I look at, you want a team that plays some defense, but what you really want is the offensive teams. And specifically, you want the offensive teams that can shoot the 3. So there, I agree. I think turnovers are also important. It's another stat I look at. But the thing I'm looking at the most is things like margin of victory, 3-point percentage, offense efficiency. All right. So Andrew asks, who is this year's St. Peter's? Well, it's a little difficult to answer that right this second, but I'll give you my thoughts, and maybe you guys will be like, that's a cop-out. But I don't know. I don't know who's going to be in there. Like if I had to pick like out of the teams that we already know are in, which are only like what, 5, 6. I don't like Furman. Furman is a team. I think, yeah, they're a very good team, and they could win a couple of games. But the teams I'm thinking, Andrew, is either Conference USA winner or the A10 winner. Conference USA might actually get 2 teams in. If the way we all predicted UAB over Atlantic, and Atlantic still may get in. So you can look at both of those teams. But I also think the A10 winner has a good chance. And so if I had to pick a real flyer, I'd go with Furman.
Furman's good. I'm actually proud of myself on this one, and I'm going to share. I'm not right often on predictions. Actually, my percentage in predictions is probably in the teens, but this particular one was correct. Now, when I watch a team, I'll stat the game and I'll take notes on the team. So when I go back to it, I can kind of like, oh yeah, I remember them. I saw Kennesaw State play back in, I believe it was December. And here are the notes I took on them. The Owls are physical, strong, and skilled. Kennesaw State might be one of the better teams in the country that you have not heard of. It'll be a 2-team race between Liberty and Kennesaw State in the A-Sun, and I can see either team getting to the second weekend in the NCAA tournament. Kennesaw is extremely impressive and talented. I like Kennesaw. I like them a lot. They had the defense, the A-Sun Defensive Player of the Year in Desmond Robinson. And when you combine a big like that with the athletic wings they have, that might be lightning in a bottle. I like Kennesaw State to be my St. Peter's.
Very nice. Very nice.
So I like Furman. I'll get to Kennesaw in a second, though, because I love everything you just said, Booney. I like Furman as a team. I like Drake as well because they're older than some NBA lineups. Like they have a ton of experience on that team, especially the guys that have played the tournament before as well. But this Furman team, heartbreak last year, losing at the buzzer to Chattanooga. They get their revenge last night. I think this team thought they were ready to play and maybe win a game in the tournament last year. So now for them to get in this year, Furman is definitely a team, I think, with the right. Again, tournament's all about matchups. It can certainly win a game or two. But this Kennesaw team, if you're looking for a story, a feel-good story, almost like St. Peter's was last year, 3 years ago, they won 1 game. They won 1-28.
Yeah.
What a job Amir Abdur-Rahim has done. You mentioned they're physical, a very good player in Desmond Robinson who could almost operate as a KC and Defo, almost as St. Peter's did. Not saying they're the same because that dude is a ludicrous special defender. But when you have a big like that, You have some good guards around as well. If you're looking for a feel-good story, I think that's where Kennesaw could maybe mirror St. Peter just a little bit.
Very good. Very good, gentlemen. Now, look at this. We finally get a question. All year, it's been like, why do you have this guy ranked too high? Why do you have this guy ranked too low? You guys don't know what you're doing. Why do you guys always do the show when you're drunk? But listen to this. This one says, Scott says, agree with you guys on Brandon Miller. The entire situation at Alabama is disgraceful. Also love that you guys covered mid-major standouts like Jake Stevens and Dwayne Cohill, both of whom were on the show recently. By the way, I forgot to give a shout out to JT Shoemate, who was on the show around Christmas time. And we went with Toledo to win the MAC tournament. So thank you, Scott. Appreciate it. Speaking of guests, Scott, by the way, I'm glad Scott reminded me, we were supposed to have Darian Williams of Nevada on today and Marquise Noel of Kansas State. Both schools canceled on me last minute because they're prepping for their conference tournaments. And in Nevada's case, they literally are a little nervous about their position. They're really on the bubble, so they really wanted to focus. So both schools have told me that we will have the players on next week. So hopefully that's the case. All right, gentlemen. Well, Booty, I hope you have the safe flight, and I hope everything goes well.
I appreciate it.
Goes well for you in Florida. We just got 4 more inches of snow here last night. We got 6 last Monday night, and then we got 4 this Monday night. 10 inches. But anyway, be safe. And Jake, it was great having you on for a full show. And next, Doc is going to come on. We're going to talk a little NBA, and then we're going to wrap it up.
Awesome. I mean, hey, it's going to be fun to talk about the NBA. I mean, games could be going, 207 to 202 maybe this week. Awesome. I enjoyed it, man. Thanks, Jake.
Well,
thanks, Rick. I appreciate it. A lot of fun.
Guys.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. So it appears that it's going to be one of those weeks, and Doc is going to be unable to make it this week as well. So we're going to skip the NBA chat. One of the topics we were going to discuss was, does the NBA have an image problem again, as was the case in the late 70s, early 80s. Bad looks are kind of piling up. You have Kyrie, players sitting out constantly, players constantly making trade demands, tanking, the scoring explosion, which would seem to go to not so much rule changes, but people just not wanting to play defense. Perhaps there's more to that. Maybe it's not just defense. Maybe there's a need for more rule changes. And on top of all that, you now have the John Morant situation. So it's definitely something we're going to have to talk about in the near future. But I'm not going to sit here and, we won't address that today, but we are concerned about the league. That's for sure. So, I want to thank everybody, for listening. And of course, I want to thank everyone for sending the questions, Trevor, Andrew, and Scott this week. Appreciate that, guys. If you'd like to send us a question, please email it to admin@hoopsprospects.com. We also take questions via social media on Twitter @hoopsprospects, on Instagram @thehoops_prospects, and on Facebook @hoopspros. So I want to thank everyone, and hopefully we'll have our 2 special guests next week, Darian Williams and Marquise Noel. And of course, we'll be back next week with a new stock report, and the usual much more. Oh, actually, next week will be our special bracket episode. You won't want to miss that. We going to be collectively picking a bracket, putting our heads together and filling out one bracket. So that will be myself, Booney, probably Jake, probably Drew, So, and maybe even someone else. We'll see. So, again, thank you, and I appreciate everyone listening, and we'll see you next week, folks.